Hey, well, good morning, guys. I don't know about you, but this week's devotionals have been so encouraging. We've covered the book of Esther, and you can't help but see God's hand throughout the events that took place in the story. The sermon was all about seizing the moment, here and now, the place that God has put you in. And Brad mentioned towards the end of the sermon, and I found this to be a common theme throughout this week's devotionals, is that God always wins. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Who wouldn't want to serve a God who is always on the winning side? God used Esther in her situation despite the challenges she faced to save the Jews from being murdered. What stood out to me in these passages was that in order for Esther to be used, there was a response of obedience to God's call. Living a God-centered life means laying yourself down and putting your ambitions and aspirations aside and allowing God to use you. This means allowing God to interrupt your plans has a response, and it's responding in obedience to what He may call you to at any moment. In other words, seize the moment. With all the evidence in His Word available to us that God always wins, we somehow still struggle to drop what we're doing and follow Him for the plans and purposes He has for our lives. If I told you I could give you the winning numbers that will guarantee you winning the lotto jackpot tomorrow, you would probably stop what you're doing right now and play the lotto immediately with the advice I've given you. Why? Because it's a guaranteed win. Why wouldn't you? So then why do we hesitate when we hear God speak? Jeremiah 29:11, and we've already heard it this week. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. In my experience, God will never ask you to step out in faith and then abandon you, leaving you to pick up the pieces. If we remain in God and follow what He has called us into or called us to do, we can only win because we're on the winning side. John 15 verses 5 reminds me of this. It reads, "Yes, I am in the vine, and you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing." And then in verse 16, Jesus goes on to say, "You didn't choose me, but I chose you. I appointed you to go and produce lasting fruit." He chose you for a purpose. He gave you gifts to use for His kingdom's sake, and He changes your plans for the benefit of those around you. Knowing Jesus' love will lead us into this obedience. So remember, seize this moment. God has placed you exactly where you need to be, just as He placed Esther in the time of Xerxes' reign. Be ready to respond to the call and take comfort in knowing that you are on the winning team. Amen? Well, I trust you have a great Friday. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you Sunday. God bless.